April edition of the County Fair. I'm Jason Grzgorek, your host, and welcome to yet another fantastic episode where we're going to discuss something new here in Hamilton County. Maybe not necessarily new to the county, but new to you and especially to myself. I'm very fortunate to have with me tonight at the round table Mr. Michael Patton of the Fatherhood Collaborative of Hamilton County.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And of course, sitting next to him, Officer Lewis Arnold of the Cincinnati Police Department.
Thanks for having me.
Now, of course, I'm bringing us together early, but as we're talking about fathers and fatherhood, June is Father's Day is coming up in June. So it's a great way to bring in fatherhood, the Fatherhood Collaborative.
Yeah.
As I've been reading a little bit about your bios and what's going on with the collaborative, you kind of are both founding members, founding fathers, we could almost call you,
Absolutely.
of the collaborative. For those who are not necessarily in the know, the collaborative, let's explain a little bit about what it is and what drew both of you to the collaborative.
Sure. Okay, about a year and a half ago, maybe closer to 2 years ago, the Cincinnati Human Relations Commission applied for and received a grant from the Ohio Fatherhood Commission. And the Ohio Fatherhood Commission is in Columbus, and they fund a lot of local activities around fatherhood. The idea of the grant was to identify and recognize areas in the state of Ohio to stand up a fatherhood initiative. So part of that was the application for the grant. The Cincinnati Human Relations Commission received $10,000 for that grant. And as a result of that, the collaborative was sort of born from that. So this is a collective of organizations who serve fathers in some capacity or another. I specifically work for Hamilton County Job and Family Services through child support. So my connection to the collaborative came as a result of my involvement in the child support program. And so we began meeting about 18 months ago. We meet monthly. And really our goal is to work with organizations who serve fathers to leverage the information and their contact with fathers so that we can do a better job of getting fathers in contact with the services that they need in order to become better parents and better fathers overall.
It sounds like something that Fatherhood Collaborative, you hear fathers being the forefront. Most of the time you hear the mother being the supportive one. What was that drive? I mean, it sounds like definitely the state of Ohio had a lot of push behind that to bring this to the forefront.
Well, I think that a lot of people may not realize that there are studies that have been done that show that the involvement of a father in the life of their child makes an positive impact on several outcomes, multiple outcomes. Long term, they do better in school. They're less likely to be involved with drugs and alcohol. They're less likely to be involved with the criminal justice system. They're more likely to be better parents themselves. So there are a myriad of measures that look at the quality of human life, and those signify that the role and the impact of a father is very positive in the lives of children. And so the collaborative sort of came about with the understanding that a lot of the social issues that we see in our community, in our country, can be addressed in some way by bringing the father back into the family in a very positive way.
Bringing the law aspect to it, I mean, was that your initiative to be a part of that, or was it as a father or someone of the community wanting to be a part of the collaborative?
Wanting to be a part. Policing is changing. We have finally discovered that we cannot arrest our way out of the problems we have in society. So we have to really become a part of the community, and we have to be a part of what's happening in the community. And with that being said, the police department decided to be a part of the Fatherhood Collaborative. Number one, to assist fathers who are returning home from prison. Number two, maybe getting fathers who are just struggling in society and might be tempted to break the law. Where if we can point them to organizations that can assist them, help them get on their feet. If they're struggling in certain areas, maybe they might be struggling with child support, we can send them to the Fatherhood Collaborative, and in turn send them to Jobs and Family Services that could assist them with child support. You'll find a lot of young men and women who pay child support. If they're behind in child support, they lose their driver's license, they lose their driving privileges, and in turn they get caught up in a traffic stop. They're driving without a driver's license, and now they have a court case that they can't afford to pay if there are any fines that have to be paid. So what us being involved, it allows us to assist those fathers to jump some of those hurdles, jump through some of those hoops, go around some of those barriers that is making life difficult for them in order for them to really be able to provide for their children.
We're still in those groundwork areas. You said about 18 months now. Obviously, there's a lot of baby steps to make this grow and flourish. If we were to look from inception to today, how, in leaps and bounds, how far do you feel that you've gone, and how much further do you feel you need to go to make this a successful collaboration?
I think the initial for 18 months had to do with relationships, building relationships, bringing the right people to the table. I think we've done a good job of that. We have 22 organizations that are represented, and I think we're growing all the time. So in the first 18 months, I think we've done a good job of establishing what it is we want to try to get accomplished, which is to leverage the relationships and the organizations that already serve fathers in the community in a way that hasn't been done before, by bringing us together, talking about the issues of fatherhood and making sure we have that communication open. We have a lot further to go in terms of identifying specifically the kinds of activities and the kinds of things we want to be involved in as a collaborative. I think there are opportunities for us to look at specific measurable outcomes that we want to establish. So we're in the process of doing those kinds of things, looking at how we can measure the impact of fathers in a quantitative way, so that when people ask us in the future, we come to these kinds of venues or filmings in the future, we have an opportunity to say, this is the impact that we believe we've made in the lives of our local community as it relates to fathers.
Trees are important to a city. Like electricity or water, they are a part of the city's vital infrastructure. Their benefits can be measured and are many. Trees can improve your community's tax base, actively reduce both air and water pollution, improve children's health, and according to studies, even improve their ability to pay attention in school, thus improving their chances for success in life. There are countless benefits to the presence of trees and tree canopy. Trees can increase revenue for small businesses, strengthen relationships between residents and neighborhoods, and help improve where we live by impacting the temperature. Research shows that the benefits our community trees provide only increase with time and for decades to come. When a tree is planted, we all immediately begin to reap the benefits. In the urban environment where 80% of all Americans live, this investment is also a community investment that benefits all of us in so many ways we rarely think about. Join us as we explore how trees are a living investment. We'll travel to towns, cities, and parks to learn about the value of trees. On this journey, we'll meet citizens, community leaders, scientists, teachers, parents, and professionals, all who can attest to how community trees improve our lives.
I'm a research social scientist at the University of Washington in Seattle. I've been investigating business districts and what might a business district gain from planting trees. What's important when talking to local decision makers, government leaders, government staff within a city or county is economics. It's got to come down to the dollars and cents. We find repeatedly is that people in business districts, shoppers and customers, are telling us they will spend 9 to 12% more in places that have a quality urban forest. In the last 20 to 30 years, there have been many studies, very good scientific studies, that tell us about air quality, water quality improvements, energy savings, all of these sorts of environmental services that are provided by trees. But in addition to that, and sometimes this is not quite as obvious to people, there are a lot of human services as well, and these happen or occur for individuals, they occur for neighborhoods, communities, and entire cities.
In terms of looking at how people care about their homes, their neighborhood. I think the trees add tremendously to that.
Many retailers recognize the value added to shopping districts that have healthy trees and canopy-lined streets.
I'm a small business owner, and I've owned this business for over 20 years. And it's basically retail business, jewelry, gifts, crafts. People love trees. They love to be in a green area. It's just very welcoming. It softens the harshness of the sun in the summer. We've just had a wonderful volunteer program here, trying to get more trees in the shopping district.
Trees are a vital part of thriving shopping districts all over the country.
By having the trees shading the pedestrians, you're giving them a comfortable environment. Not only is it good to look at, but you feel cooler on a hot day like it is today. We have found that generally people are in a much happier mood.
Studies have been done also that show people will linger for a longer period of time when there's a lot of greenery around. You know, and you get that foot traffic, you get people window shopping, you get people spending more time. Instead of just going in and grabbing what they need and leaving, you might get a lot of other economic opportunities from their increased presence at that place.
And that's the goal here, is to make our urban, suburban environment successful economically. And I think you need to do that by bringing the trees in.
I think that just in terms of the visual impact that a tree gives to a community, in terms of looking at how people care about their homes, their neighborhood, I think the trees add tremendously to that.
Well, in an urban environment that we're in, we're balancing a lot of goals, including redevelopment in our urban areas, making wise use of the infrastructure that already exists, balancing transit-oriented development and smart growth, all of those really sound development principles with the competing needs for open space, for recreation, and then the environmental health and quality to make it a livable community.
Research has shown that trees placed along roadways actually slow down traffic and create less aggressive driving behavior. Drivers are also more alert, and as a result, there are fewer traffic accidents in roadway areas with trees. Trees provide another unexpected benefit. Not only do they bring people a sense of calmness and tranquility, research shows that trees actually reduce the symptoms of attention deficit disorder in children.
They feel more calm, less stress when they're in that type of environment. And it's proven for children too. They have better attention spans. It's actually shown to reduce hyperactivity in children when they see trees and nature around them.
I work with a lot of kids who are diagnosed with ADHD, and I recommend a whole lot of things for them behaviorally. I'm always recommending other things like diet and exposure to nature and things like that for these kids.
I'm very fortunate to have with us this summer, starting us all out with Wayne Coates, Hamilton County Recorder. Wayne, glad you could join us.
I'm glad to be here, Jason.
We're so happy to get this started because we've been in a little bit of a transition with the show, but it's always great to have returning guests back in the roundtable.
It's always good to be asked.
Thank you very much for coming. And of course, it's been a little bit of time since we've had you back, so let's catch up a little bit. What's been going on in your office recently?
Well, a little bit of everything. It's been a while. Well, you know, I think last time I was here, we were talking maybe about the e-recording or getting things online, and,
yes.
We've been able to do that. We've been really backscanning a lot of historical documents, which is the big thing. We've had the family search people come in from October last year, actually October 13 to April 14, and they've been able to backscan all our roll film that has been from like 1789 up to 1938.
Wow, you've really gotten definitely ahead of the game there. You're far further than what you thought, I believe. Didn't you have a certain timetable as?
Well, you know, we've been trying to do as much as we can, but, you know, given our budgeting and given our personnel issues, that it's been kind of hard. So we've had to do a lot with volunteers. Mm-hmm. One of the individuals that we were able to, that we gave a Griffin Newman Award to several years ago is a member of the Hamilton County Genealogical Society. He had a contact, he used to, let's back forward here and go say, He was at Procter & Gamble before he retired. He knew
Okay.
an individual that went out to Salt Lake with...
I was going to say, I remember you had a couple individuals coming from Utah coming in to help out as well.
Right. And they came to our office every day, and they used our Mickle, and one of the deals was that they would give us a copy of the film that they would do as far as digitally. So now we have a digital copy of that. However, what I've opted to do, because their server is much bigger than my server, is that we put a link onto our website that you can actually go in and research documents.
So basically, what a great partnership that you scan my back, I scan yours kind of thing, and be able to use the information.
It'd been a nice segue to that, but actually we had to do a contract. And of course, our prosecuting attorney looked at their contract and said it was not quite up to our standards. So it took us a little longer to get there, but once we got there, it's been a great partnership.
And of course, you're into the 30s right now. You're obviously planning on going forward.
Well, we stopped at 1938 because that's when Social Security numbers came on.
Aha, time to redact at this
Well,
point.
that's true. And so basically what we looked at is the priority. Since we were the family search people, they were looking at a historical line. However, from a title examiner's point, they look today back. So currently our records go back to 1988 as far as unregistered land, and then registered land go back to 2004.
Okay.
So actually that information is online forward because it has been redacted, and it costs a little over $100,000 to do that. Yeah, 18 million images.
And of course, we know how the budget is, which we'll be talking about in a little bit.
And again, I think that given the budget, though, I have to say that the commissioners have been good to me in the aspect that they have given me supplemental budgets in order to be able to do the redacting to put the images online. So, they give and take. But after the budget, there is a supplemental that they may be able to give you, depending on what the budget is. So, but actually what we're looking at, since our records go from 88 forward as far as unregistered land, we're looking to go back to 1973, which give a 40-year search.
Okay.
Most of the residential examiners search back 40 years. Now, commercial will go back 100 years because of 100-year leases.
Fair. Okay, that makes sense.
But right now, actually, we're currently back scanning the 88 back to 73. It's a long, laborious process because it's all roll film, and sometimes the quality has degraded a little bit. So. Again, one thing nice is that we do have the books downstairs.
So you can.
We can always pull out the books, but
yeah.
again, that's much more laborious.
Sure.
So, but again, it's getting where we need to be. But once we get those documents scanned and processed, we still have to have them redacted.
Right.
So,
and again, there goes that extra cost, and it's great. And it's great to have for the digital age to be able to do so. Do you think that maybe not necessarily in your tenure, but we'll talk about that. Do you think that you would ever bridge the gap and see the two combined, and that you would be able to go back to the 38 and have a complete record of what you have?
Well, that's the goal. One of my goals is, and again, looking forward, is, we've been doing so much in the past, but again, I think what we're trying to do is do a virtual library. And so to make it all digital records. We've done a lot of other things because we have plats and other things that we'll get into probably a little bit later. But again, it's just trying to put as many things online. Plats don't have Social Security numbers on it.
Right. That's easy.
Yeah.
When, of course, was that something you ever really thought about as a goal, to make this virtual library? When you were first elected, was that something like, I think I'm going to do that?
Well, actually, my goal was to get documents online.
Okay.
Because being in real estate, I used to pay a guy $25 to come downtown and look at a deed to see the ownership, and also a mortgage to see who had the mortgage. So again, it's a cost savings.
Sure.
But also what I look at is how can we be more receptive and work with our title community and realtors and engineers that use our office, and how can we make them more, just more online, so that they don't have to take their time, have to come downtown, pay a parking fee, and deal with all that when they can just print it.
As long as mankind has existed, people have thrown away stuff. As more and more of us populated the planet, we threw away more stuff. Today, humans generate vast rivers and huge mountains of garbage. But in recent years, we've found ways to draw valuable resources from what we throw away. Resources we can use again and again. It's called recycling. As one of America's largest family-owned waste and recycling companies, Rumpke recycles more than 700 million pounds of glass, paper, aluminum, and other materials from throughout much of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia each year.
My family has been involved in recycling and managing the waste stream for generations.
By going to work with my dad as a very young child, working on the truck with him, going out with him, seeing the enjoyment that he got, it was something that I wanted to be part of.
We know we're in a tough business. We know that, what we do isn't always pretty, but it's necessary, and we want to do the best job we can at handling those materials and really be a first-class operation.
Rumpke's story dates back to the Great Depression in the early 1930s. Founder William F. Rumpke had a coal delivery service. Customers bartered with whatever they had, including chickens and pigs.
This farm right here where we're standing, there was an 80-acre tract where we start dumping here in the beginning. We bought all the existing land around it. Now we got about 1,100 acres here in all. Started out, maybe we had 100 hogs. It grew to 2,000 hogs at one given time.
To keep the animals fed, William hired his unemployed nephews to collect garbage from area restaurants. In the 1940s, salvaged metal, scrap rubber, and other materials helped fuel the war effort. Trucks dumped waste into a pit at the Rumpke farm, where it was loaded onto a conveyor belt. Workers sorted out mainly metals, glass, and rags, then sold the materials for about $40 per ton. Food scraps were fed to the hogs and other livestock. In the 1950s, a new law required food waste to be cooked before it could be fed to livestock. That law changed the course of the Rumpke family business. With his youngest brother, Bernard, as his partner, William decided to sell his livestock and focus on collecting and disposing trash, taking it to the landfill in Coleraine Township.
Here at Rumpke Sanitary Landfill, we're permitted to take about 10,000 tons of solid waste a day. We're currently taking about 6,000 tons a day. There's only so much waste that you can compact into an area that's developed for landfills. So it's very important that we continue to try to reduce the waste that comes into this location so we can make it last longer and we can save that space for those materials where there just isn't a market yet.
In 1986, the Rumpke Sanitary Landfill near Cincinnati became one of the first landfills to recover methane and other natural gases generated underground by the decomposition of organic materials.
Behind us we have our gas recovery plant. What's happening here is we have a series of pipes and wells that collect that gas. This plant separates the CO2 from the methane and puts the clean methane into the pipeline. Most landfills currently burn their gas off, so they collect it and vent it off and burn it so that it's not going into the atmosphere. Here we're capturing that gas and using that gas for a beneficial use. There's enough gas produced from this landfill that we can heat 25,000 homes.
Rumpke also uses compressed natural gas from its landfill to power dozens of its trucks.
This is the largest landfill to natural gas project in the world.
In the fall of 2013, Rumpke opened a state-of-the-art $32 million MRF, short for Material Recovery Facility, in St. Bernard, Ohio, near Cincinnati.
For every 10,000 tons of waste that goes to a landfill, you create one job. For every 10,000 tons you can recycle, you create between 8 to 10 jobs. And that multiplies itself. We have over 100 employees here in Cincinnati based on recycling materials that were at one time going to the waste stream. What a great story.
Today, recycling begins with you at your home or business. Items we accept for recycling are limited to plastic bottles and jugs, cartons with the caps and straws removed, glass bottles and jars of any color, aluminum, steel, and tin cans, and paper, including cardboard, newspaper, office paper, junk mail, phone books, magazines, and clean pizza boxes.
In the early days, we separated everything at the curb. So all of the 2 liters went in one section of the truck, all the glass by color went in a different section, the newspaper went in its own section.
We don't want people to think it's too difficult to recycle. That's one of the reasons that we implemented single stream recycling, to make it easier for our customers. You just, put it in the bin all together. You don't have to separate it.
The trash goes in one container, recyclables in another. You leave both containers at the curb for Rumpke to collect, and your job is done.
The recycling, it felt like I'm doing something to preserve something, giving back instead of throwing it all away.
A lot of times when I talk to students, we talk about examples. How can you reduce? Have your own reusable water bottle instead of a new one every day, or using a reusable shopping bag when you go to the grocery store. How could you use this for something else?
For Rumpke, the process is just beginning. Think of recycling as wading into a never-ending river of recyclables and dividing various materials into separate streams.
2009 was our year to celebrate our 25th anniversary for Air Care and Mobile Care. And we do have a long, very interesting history, actually. Air Care was originally started with the founder of Air Care, who was Dudley Smith, was the original director of Air Care. And it was his thesis project for his master's at school. And he was at the University of Cincinnati and working with, they actually started an ambulance service over at the University of Cincinnati 30 years ago. And from that it became his thesis project, and it took a couple years to develop. And with that, they started with an aircraft based here at University Hospital 25 years ago, and been doing transports and growing and evolving ever since. The mobile ICU, there was a need for that critical care transport to start, and that was originally initiated at Christ Hospital through a group of cardiologists that needed to transport their patients from some of the rural areas into the cath lab. So they started a mobile ICU team, and shortly after that, then they started a basic life support team to support transporting the patients out of Christ Hospital. So there's two different things working kind of at the same time, and that with the evolvement of the Health Alliance, it made sense that we bring all these resources together and make it one comprehensive service to provide a wide spectrum, so it becomes a one call, can do it all for whatever need the patient needs. So that's where the BLS, the ALS, and the mobile ICU and the rotor wing came together to work as a unified group.
The main difference between the two, in particular for our program, is the time factor. That truly is the big deciding factor. The physician component is important, so sometimes some interfacilities would prefer to have a physician on board and therefore would call us. But the way we train our staff, the ground nurses and the air nurses, both teams are trained exactly the same, so they can deal with the same patient populations. But the time factor would be the determining factor between sending one over the other.
I think there's a deep analysis of what type of patients need to be transported. What is the need? What does the community need? So if the patient needs happen to be a critical care, then you have to look at the scope of practice of the various practitioners. So what level of care can a nurse provide? What level of care can a physician be able to provide for those patients, or a paramedic or EMT? And identify the need, and then match that need with the most appropriate level of healthcare provider.
The main difference is the educational level of the physician, the ability to diagnose more in depth, and therefore allowing some different interventions, allowing to know what the hospital is going to be doing when we get there, so we're able to start procedures or interventions that'll easily be carried over to the hospital setting. So, a lot of the things that you do in transport, a lot of it is pretty defined by some guidelines and criteria nationally, but having the physician on board gives us that extra edge as far as knowledge and capabilities and just further diagnosis that helps the patient in the end of their process and their visit to the hospital.
I think that, and I'll speak mostly on the air side, since that's where I spend most of my time. I think that people kind of mistakenly think of helicopter EMS as solely something that has to do with trauma. And, because that's where we're most visible when we land on I-275 to take care of a patient injured in a serious car accident. And that's kind of when you see us on the news and so forth. But trauma is actually a little less than half of what we do. So you need to kind of I guess, broaden your perspective of what air care does. We fly an awful lot of patients with heart attacks, with strokes, a lot of pediatric patients. About 11 or 12% of what we do is pediatrics, and not just kids injured in trauma, but also sick kids with status asthmaticus or status epilepticus or sepsis. A lot of patients with high-risk OB, obstetric transport. So there's a great variety in, as you mentioned, not just in emergency medicine, but in helicopter EMS as well. And so that's why it certainly does take a lot of training to be ready to do this job well, both from a nursing standpoint and a physician standpoint.
And the uniqueness about air care is the fact that we fly with a physician nurse in the back, and we're only one of less than 5% of the programs across the nation that are still able to that have that level of support from their facility to continue that. And what that allows us to do is really open the doors up from University Hospital and take that hospital out to the patient.
Usually on the mobile ICUs in the aircraft are where we use our critical care nurses. We have a total of about 23 nurses on staff with us right now. There's probably an average of about 20 years of experience between all of the nurses that we have. For criteria for this position requires at least 5 years of nursing experience. So, and that's in either an ED or a critical care setting. We feel it's very important that nurses have at least 5 years of experience to be able to deal with the issues that arise in an outside of a hospital experience. So that's very important. We prefer to have people with pre-hospital experience, so if you are a nurse and also an EMT or paramedic, that's very highly sought after. If you have both adult and pediatric experience, we look for that as well. But we do require, of course, basic life support, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, neonatal resuscitation, and advanced trauma courses like a TNCC or an ATLS.
It's the best place to live in the United States. I wanted to see its full potential.
I'm excited about the possibilities.
There's no reason not to be excited. It's just finding the way to communicate that message.
It is an opportunity for everyone to have a voice.
Our change is now. Our moment is now. Our crisis is now.
This is our chance to have a mark on the region.
Collaboration is critical to our success.
It's going to be the agenda that takes us into the future.
Our future begins right now.
Agenda 360 arose as a call to action.
It just personifies working together in the region.
It pulls us all together to talk about what's important, where we want to go, where we'd like to be, and who we are.
I fundamentally believe in the hub and spokes theory of what drives a region.
Agenda 360 to me is an umbrella initiative that includes every single facet of the city.
Agenda 360 is a strategic plan for the region.
By the year 2020, we want to transform Cincinnati, USA into a leading region for talent, jobs, and economic prosperity and opportunity for all the people in the region that call it home.
There's a lot of things that I love about this community, and there's a lot of things in this community that I hope we can change over the next 10 years and things that I hope we can expand.
This city is an awesome city. We're just stuck. We're just looking at the past and we're not looking at the future.
In a world economy, the only way you can compete is by leveraging the scale and diversity of an entire region.
It's been hard for us to come together as a community to develop a kind of strategic plan for the work that we need to do as a community.
Last October, the Chamber led a delegation of business and community leaders to Boston for an intercity benchmarking trip. The thing that probably most impressed us was the way all of Boston's leaders had coalesced around a prioritized list of initiatives to transform their community.
We reached out initially early to Northern Kentucky and its Vision 2015 rather than reinventing the wheel.
Certainly Vision 2015 in Northern Kentucky
has been a great roadmap to start the work for Agenda 360.
It's important to align Agenda 360 with those initiatives that are already in existence in moving this region forward.
We have assembled an incredible group of volunteers to lead the effort. It's a diverse group, ethnically, racially, geographically. It's an intergenerational group.
The Competitive Economy Action Team was created to address traditional economic development. We are focusing on job and wealth creation through key areas including infrastructure, transportation, workforce development, and how to grow the talent we have in our region.
The Educational Excellence Team is focusing on birth to lifelong learning. We're definitely trying to connect the needs of the workforce with educational excellence.
The success of livable communities would be Cincinnati being a snapshot of the world. The environment and open space. We're talking about arts, culture, and entertainment. What will it take to make our communities livable for everyone? And that's the key, for everyone.
Regions are only as strong as their urban core, and the Urban Renaissance Action Team will focus on the foundational elements that will improve the urban areas of our region.
Effective governance is the action team of Agenda 360, which seeks to align the governmental bodies of the 4 counties of southwestern Ohio.
The fact that we can involve public policymakers from all different types of government to address issues that impact the entire greater Cincinnati community, I think that that will benefit our region for generations to come.
Success for Agenda 360 would mean that the communities throughout the region would feel included and that they would be talking with one voice.
I think it's also very, very important that we all focus on what success is. What does success mean to each of us individually, and what does success mean to us collectively?
How do we address our inclusive gap and really create a more welcoming, inclusive, embracing society that we can all be proud of?
I was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. My kids have been born and raised here. Selfishly, I'd kind of like for my grandchildren to be born and raised here. The only way that happens is if you make sure that Cincinnati, USA is as attractive and competitive a place globally for those kids as it has been for me and for my kids.
It's going to be a concise, short list of actions, steps we need to take, things we need to do as a region in order to be better.
Our goal at the end of the day is to kind of unite and unify the entire region so that it can act as one.
And that's really what collaboration is all about, is beginning to share what each of us are trying to accomplish here in Greater Cincinnati.
If we could all rally around it, that we can make this something very exciting, not only for our city, but the surrounding areas around us.
I think we'll be much stronger if we can align together in the work that we're trying to do.
360 represents inclusiveness, that we are taking in this entire region into and including every single resident of the greater Cincinnati area.
If you live here, if you've gone to school here, if you raise a family here or plan to raise a family here, then I think you definitely need to be involved with Agenda 360.
Agenda 360 is the lifeblood of our future.
It's the alignment of our region.
Comprehensive.
Visionary.
Necessary.
Action.
Creative.
Agenda 360 is now.
I'd like to welcome you to the October edition of County Fair, our news and information source here for all things Hamilton County. I'm very fortunate to have with me tonight Chris Monzel, Commissioner, of course, of Hamilton County.
Oh.
Chris, glad you could join us.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Love having you on because we always get a little bit of more information on what's going downtown and in the whole Hamilton County. And we're going to talk about one of your favorite subjects. It's one that at least we know we can talk a good hour to half hour on, is, of course, is the sewer district and what's going on there, because we're running on a timeline here.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's time to start making those decisions.
Right, exactly. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about tonight, and to the viewers, of just kind of a background on the Metropolitan Sewer District, how we got to where we are today, and then what's the future is going to look like. Because you're right, we are facing some decisions that are going to have to be made here probably within the next year, a year and a half, that will affect all county ratepayers.
I think it's a good idea, as we normally do, go from the beginning to where we need to go. But just to give a quick overview, why is this so important? I mean, again, because the viewers probably aren't certain, and again, once we get into the history, I think it kind of flushes itself out.
Yeah, a few charts that I brought here will definitely bring up the issue of why it is so important to the viewers and to the county ratepayers, is that monthly sewer bill that they're getting now. It's not a water bill anymore, it's a sewer bill, and just how much that has increased over the past few years and how much more that will increase. To me, it's something that, from a Hamilton County perspective, could crush families and businesses if we don't address it and make sure that we're doing everything possible to keep those rates low. Because to me, people are going to choose to move their families, move their businesses to other counties if it's just too expensive to live here.
Well, and I think, and again, we'll get to a slide on that, which I think was one of the bigger choices of what happened back in the early 50s.
Right.
Actually, the 60s when everything changed. So,
right, yeah.
Let's dive in.
Okay, super. So first, the Hamilton County created a sewer district back in the 1920s. And so there's several sewer districts at the time. And then, each different community, Loveland had a sewer district, the west side, within Coleraine Township, all these various political subdivisions had their sewer systems that were being developed as population had increased. And so it was about in the 1950s that we came, 1955 actually, that we came and created Hamilton County Sewer District number 1. And we couldn't do it as actually through the state legislature. So county government doesn't pass any laws or ordinances. That is done by the Ohio State Legislature. And so they are the ones that put into the Ohio Revised Code that there was a county sewer district, sewer district number 1. And so that combined, just the ones that we are working with within Hamilton County. Fast forward a few more years, another decade, in the 1960s, the city of Cincinnati at that time was the largest population within Hamilton County. And they actually had the largest amount of infrastructure for sewer systems, water treatment facilities. And so at that time, the leaders of the county and the city came together and said, hey, we're facing a lot of environmental protection agency type of work that we have to do. The EPA was coming in and telling both the city and the county subdivisions, you got to fix your sewer systems. They're outdated, because some of these are almost half century old or even older.
At that point, you're looking at.
I mean, some of the stuff in the city is still they're like wooden kind of piping or tubing, so to speak, for the sewer systems. So you have some old stuff that's throughout the system, and the EPA was like, you guys got to come in, and you got to fix it. And so at that time, they decided, well, wouldn't it be better if we kind of all joined together to fix the problems, and at the same time kind of simplify. Why does Loveland have to fix it, or Coleraine Township have to fix it? Let's do this all together. So all 20 local sewer districts combined with the Cincinnati sewer district and created the Metropolitan Sewer District in 1968.
And it seems like that would have been the right thing to do. Again, making it one central body, everything, you don't have to worry about one or the other, people calling who's going to take care of what. I mean, it just seems like logical sense at that point.
Right, absolutely. I mean, especially from the stance of that the city had the largest amount of population at that time. They had the infrastructure set up for doing waste treatment and the sewer pipes, so to speak.
Sure. And
the county was just not as populated yet. From that standpoint, just kind of made a lot of sense of setting this up. And this agreement, it was a 50-year agreement. And it broke down into roles and responsibilities of what the county was responsible for and what the city was responsible for.
Okay.
And so out of that, the county is responsible for basically the financial aspects of running a system. So we're the ones setting the budgets, the county's setting the rates. Yeah,
I was going to say,
well, I'm jumping ahead a couple of slides.
You're jumping a little bit, but that's okay.
Slide. So, it basically breaks down into various responsibilities that are more financial on the county side, issuing debt, making sure that we're balancing the budget at the end of the year. We have to have a balanced budget for the Metropolitan Sewer District. So all those kind of financial aspects are on our side. We have to go through the expenses, look at what's being spent, but on the operational side, the city of Cincinnati was the one that was put in charge of that.
Okay.
So it was a split. Kind of governance was being done by the county, and then the operations was being done by the city. And again, from that standpoint, it made sense of the city already had a majority of this stuff in place. Right. They had the largest amount of folks working on it, plants in place.
They already knew how to make it work.
Exactly. So they already in the business of operating.
Right.
So why not team with them? And back then, you hear shared services all the time. This is an example of shared services where you're actually utilizing across different types of governmental bodies of providing a service to the public. And so it made a lot of sense to do, right? And from the population standpoint, from the type of capital that the city had, it was just the right time to go in and combine together.